The last snow had melted from the hills when the black hare returned to Elk Hollow. The villagers, pale and tight-lipped, said nothing as it loped along the edge of the woods. Its eyes were too round, its fur too matted, as if it drank in the light rather than reflected it. No one hunted it, no child tried to chase it, and even the dogs howled when it passed. For 3 nights it circled the old church on the hill, the one abandoned since the ground split open beneath its altar. By Easter Sunday, the daffodils bloomed in twisted curls. The sun never quite pierced the haze, and the eggs began to appear. They were not laid nor painted, they simply were, clustered in hollows left in doorways and nestled among the roots of ancient trees. Shells of bone white and dull grey, slick to the touch and faintly warm. They pulsed sometimes, softly as if dreaming. No one claimed them, and no one dared destroy them. Except Jonah Bell. Jonah had returned to Elk Hollow after 15 years in the city, brought back by his mother's funeral and the cold estate left behind. He did not believe in omens, or the old traditions, or the hollow, rattling things the townsfolk half whispered and never quite finished saying. But he remembered the hare. It had come once before, when he was 8, and that spring the creek ran black, and the twins from the Miller family were found inside the well, eyes open, mouths full of feathers. Still, Jonah watched the hare that Easter morning. He stood atop the mossy stone wall in his backyard, framed in the dead trees, and staring. Unmoving, unblinking, at his feet lay a single egg, slick and black as oil. He stepped forward, barefoot, and crushed it beneath his heel. The sound it made was wrong. Not the crack of an eggshell, but the wet, gelatinous pop of something trying not to die. And from that moment on, something began to wake. That night, Jonah dreamed of a field lit by no sun. Eggs covered the earth, rolling in every direction, their shells cracked and weeping light. A sky of meat stretched overhead, and from it dangled veils of tendon and breath. Something stirred beneath the ground, huge and slow, its heart beat loud enough to shift the air in his lungs. He awoke, choking on yolk. It spilled from his mouth, grey and gelatinous, peppered with twitching filaments like root hairs. His throat burned, his eyes streamed, the taste lingered like rust and seawater. In the mirror, he saw one of the veins in his eye was no longer red, but dark green and pulsing. The town was quiet the next day. Too quiet. Not in the cliched way of horror novels or ghost stories, but with a silence of resignation. A kind of hush that meant everyone knew something and no longer spoke of it aloud. Jonah walked to the centre of the village. The egg was gone, and so was the hare. But on every door, including his own, a mark had been smeared in ash. A broken circle, a spiral inside it, and a single line descending like a tail. The children were gone, and no one searched. By the 3rd night, Jonah stopped dreaming. Or rather, he could no longer wake. His sleep became a tunnel, long, humid, filled with sounds like flesh tearing and organs rearranging. His limbs twitched of their own accord. His fingernails yellowed. The mark appeared on his shoulder, faint at first, like heat rash. By morning, it had deepened, raw and scabbed, like something branded him from the inside out. That was when he remembered the old stories. Not the nursery rhymes, but the real ones, whispered by his grandmother when the power flickered and the hares danced under the moon. of the Hollow One. A thing not born, but grown. Not god, not beast, but a will that wore flesh like a costume and laid its memory into generations like seeds. It came at Easter, not because of resurrection, but because we made a mistake in thinking resurrection was ours to claim. The eggs weren't symbols, they were egressors, containers, wombs, and something inside them remembered him. Jonah tried to leave. He packed the car, drove toward the bridge that led out of Elk Hollow. But halfway across, the road fractured. Not crumbled, but fractured. Like glass beneath a pressure too vast to name. The trees leaned forward, the sky drooped, birds spiraled in reverse, and at the edge of his vision, always just behind him, he saw the hare. Watching. He turned back, but there was nowhere else to go. The townspeople had gathered at the church. Its roof had caved in years ago, but the walls remained. So did the altar, splintered and blackened, with veins of something pulsing just beneath the stone. Jonah stood apart, but no one stopped him. The villagers carried the eggs, some broken, some still whole, and placed them on the altar in silence. Then the priest, an old man with one eye and no tongue, raised his hands. The wind died. From the ground a sound rose, not music, but the memory of music. Dissonant, like dozens of choirs humming through teeth. The earth trembled. A crack widened at the altar's base. It opened not into depth, but into hollowness. A space without geometry, a void that dripped light. And something began to crawl free. Not quickly, not fully, but just enough. Jonah screamed. No words, just a scream of recognition. He felt the same shape rise in him. That same pulse that lived in the yolk he had vomited, that now pulsed beneath his ribs. He was not an intruder. He was not a witness. He was a vessel. The villagers turned to him, weeping black tears. One by one they bowed, not to him, but to what stirred inside him. And as the altar cracked and the sky split, Jonah fell to his knees, his spine arched back and his mouth unhinged, not wide but wrong, a second jaw folding open, and from it emerged not sound, but a name. One not meant for throats, only for silence. One that echoed through the fields, the trees, the eggs. And they answered. Across Elk Hollow, every egg pulsed once, then split. From each, a figure crawled forth, not identical, not human, but related to Jonah in shape and intention. Each bore his mark, each looked at him with the same green-veined eyes. They had no language, because they needed none. Jonah stood. He was not alone. He had never been alone. For this was the Easter of the hollowing, not of resurrection, but of replication. A seed had returned to its soil, and the world again would bloom.